Thanks for joining us this evening. I'm Charlie Smythe, Chair of Champaign County Bikes. We'll get started right at 7. We'll be toggling between video and some slides, pausing for comments. Hopefully I've mastered the technical process of switching between slides and video, so please bear with me. There may be a few pauses in there as we get going. But welcome to our first Bike Basics webinar. And we'll get started right at 7. We've got quite a few attendees still to come on.
You may see bicyclists riding for transportation, going to work or to school, running errands, shopping downtown, getting around town, or even using the bus for part of their commute.
You may see bicyclists riding for exercise or recreation, at the park, on a leisurely ride, or as part of a group ride.
So Champaign County Bikes is the local bicycle and pedestrian advocacy organization. We're a 501c3 not-for-profit, and we're beginning our 16th year of work. We work closely with Ride Illinois, the state advocacy group, as well as local governments and other groups. One of our products is the Champaign-Urbana-Savoy Bike Map. We'll come back to this at the end of the presentation. We work with different active transportation groups in town. These co-sponsors have contributed content tonight and will be helping more with future programs. There will be a bit more on them at the end as well, but we have Cynthia Hoyle, a transportation planner, with us tonight representing Safe Routes to School and the MTD. Behind the scenes, Rick Langlois, a longtime bike commuter, is helping with technical issues. Rich Furr will help with general and road cycling questions, and Dave Simmons, the executive director of Ride Illinois, is with us as well. We're going to use video from the League of American Bicyclists and some locally or state-produced material to go over basic information that we think all bicyclists should be aware of. We'll begin with the 5-step ABC quick check. So I'll toggle back to the video here.
There's an easy way to make sure your bike is in good working order: the basic bike check. To check the air, push on the tires to see that they are properly inflated. They should feel hard to the touch. If they give, they need to be refilled. When pumping up your tires, the air pressure should match the number written on the tire. While you are inflating your tires, check them over for bald spots, damage, or loose threads. If you see any of these, it's time to get a new tire. For brakes, there are 2 things to check. First, look at the brake pads and ensure they are not worn out. When they have worn thin, they need to be replaced. Next, squeeze your brake levers firmly. There should be a thumb's width gap between the lever and the handlebars. If this gap is too small, the brakes need to be adjusted. You want your chain and gears to be running smoothly. Turn the pedals backward to test the movement and ensure that it's clean and not squeaky. Periodically, check that the cranks are not loose. If they are, tighten the bolt. If your bike has quick-release wheels or a seat post, check and make sure they are firmly closed. Before heading out, take a brief, slow ride to check that your bike is working properly. If something does not look or feel right, be sure to have your bike looked at by a mechanic. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
So let me toggle to the slide here. So air, brakes, and chain are a key check before a ride. You'll want to be more thorough if it's been a while since you've ridden that particular bike. But basically, a bike is a lot harder to ride if the tires are underinflated, and that's something I see almost daily out my window. We won't really get into fixing a bike tonight, but there are lots of YouTube videos on fixing flats, maintaining your bike through completely overhauling it if that's what you want to get into. We'll get into some of this in our next webinar next month, but we do have a question that I got earlier for the panel here. The person's asking, I just got my bike out of the garage. It's all rusty and the chain hardly moves. What do I do if I'm willing to do it myself? What do I do if I don't want to get my hands dirty? Do I need a new bike? So who on the panel would like to take that question? Cynthia, Jeff, Rick? Well, seeing that no one's stepping forward, I'll go ahead and ask the question here. I'll answer the question. If it's not too rusty, not too dirty, and you want to do it yourself, you can try cleaning the chain, even taking it off and replacing it, lube it up. But you're more than likely going to need to take it if it's really in bad shape. After checking the tires as well, you might just need to take it to a shop, or an alternative would be to make arrangements to go to the bike project, one of their two facilities here in town, and learn to do it yourself. You may need a new bike if it's really rusty. You know, the Walmart and big box store type bikes don't tend to last a very long time, so that's a possibility. So.
Yes, Charlie, you should probably add if there's much rust on the frame or the seat post, it may be structurally unsound. And so you definitely should have it looked at.
Okay, anybody else want to chime in?
I'd like to just invite attendees to use the Q&A feature, which hopefully they would see a button for, to write in questions for you, Charlie, and that you can take between video segments. Okay, the Q&A should be there at the bottom of the screen. So, so we have a couple of video sequences that cover some basic rules of the road next. So I'll start with 3 videos, and then we'll come back and do some more Q&A.
The most important thing for bicyclists and motorists to remember is to always follow the rules of the road, which mean follow all traffic laws and drive in a predictable manner. This is the best way for bicyclists and motorists to get along and stay safe while sharing the road. Bicyclists must always ride with traffic and never against it. Motorists do not expect to see bicyclists riding towards them and therefore are not on the lookout for them, especially at intersections. Both bicyclists and motorists have less time to react when bicyclists go against the flow of traffic.
In all 50 states, bicyclists are required to follow the same laws as other drivers. There are a few key principles that underpin all U.S. traffic laws. You, along with everyone on the road, are entitled to the space you are using. This includes the space behind, to each side, and the space in front. If you want to use someone else's space, you must yield to whomever is using it. Never ride against traffic. This puts you in a position where drivers don't expect you to be. Ride with the flow of traffic. When you come to an intersection, if you don't have the right-of-way, you must yield. Before changing lanes, look behind you and ensure no traffic is coming. The slowest vehicles on the road should be the furthest to the right. Where you position yourself on the road should depend on the location of any parked cars, your speed, and your destination. Always pass on the left. Bikes can share the same lane with other drivers. When this is possible, bikes must ride far enough to the right to share the lane. This does not mean riding in the gutter. The gutter is not a safe place to ride. When sharing isn't safe, ride in the middle of the lane. When there is a lane that is used for more than one direction, use the rightmost lane, going in the direction you are going. Don't get trapped to the right of right-turning traffic when you are going straight ahead. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
By Illinois law, when overtaking a bicyclist, a motorist shall leave a safe distance, not less than 3 feet, and shall maintain that distance until safely past the overtaken bicycle. If a motorist cannot pass with at least 3 feet, they should wait until they can safely do so.
So I want to pause here and make a couple of comments. In the first of these 3 videos, there are 2 things that I want to point out. There were a group of riders riding 2 abreast. That's legal in Illinois. But we do recommend that if the road is narrow and there's traffic behind you, please go to single file so that they can pass you safely. It's the polite thing to do. And besides, you're not supposed to impede, as a bicyclist, you shouldn't be impeding traffic unless it's your safety that's of concern. The other thing is the person who is riding the wrong way while talking on a cell phone. Illinois law does allow you to have one hand, only one, you're only required to have one hand on the handlebar, but the second hand is supposed to be able to grab the handlebar at any time. You're not supposed to be carrying anything that would stop you from using both hands, and a cell phone clearly is one of those. And using a cell phone, just like in a car, is a dangerous thing to be doing. So this is a good place to take some question and answers on some basic, just the basic traffic laws here. Are there any questions, Rick?
Well, there's a question about first come, first serve in the second video. Frequently it says bicyclists encounter drivers who stop even when they don't have a stop sign and wave the bicyclist through the intersection when the bicyclist does have a stop sign, and the person wonders how best to deal with that.
Oh, that's a tricky one. Who wants to take that? Cynthia?
Yeah, if they don't have a stop sign, it would very much depend on the circumstances of the intersection. I usually won't go if there are any other vehicles anywhere around because the other vehicles will not know what is happening. If it's at a stop sign and they wave me through, I think to maintain the best relations with drivers, I accept their invitation because in Illinois, you cede the right to go at a stop sign. So if they got there before you, that doesn't necessarily mean they have to go before you. They can give you that opportunity. So I do take that if they wave me through. If there aren't a bunch of other people at the stop sign, if there are other people waiting, then I'm more cautious. So I guess the answer is it depends on the circumstances, and you have to exercise judgment based on the design, how many vehicles there are, and the kinds of behavior that you might expect. And one of the things I tell all of my students is to always expect drivers to do the dumbest thing possible. And most drivers do the right thing and they are polite. But if you have that expectation of all drivers, that's when you can get in trouble because the exception can be the one that catches you.
And I have 2 other questions. One is a real quick one. Is can you use earbuds while riding? And then let me just ask the second one and I'll be done. A friend of ours asks whether or not you have to use bike lanes, particularly some the rider feels are poorly designed or poorly maintained.
You can have one earbud in. You are not supposed to have 2 earbuds in. The same thing when you're driving a vehicle. You can have one earbud or one earpiece in. The question about the bike lanes in Illinois, you are not required to use a bike lane. You are a user of the roadway by right. That varies by state. And it also may vary by community. I do not know if there are any cities in Illinois that have a law like that. I don't know if Dave Simmons knows the answer to that.
Yeah, we're going to get into bike lanes a little later here. Yeah. We can come back to bike lanes and talk about them because there's some other things I'd like to address there as well. So let's hold on to that one a little bit. Why don't we get into the next 2 videos, which talk a bit about equipment, and then we'll take a few more questions.
It's important to make sure your bike fits you properly. While your seat can be adjusted, frames have fixed dimensions, so be sure to find the right size frame for you. If the frame has a full top tube, straddle the bike and stand in front of the seat. If it is a road bike, there should be 1 to 2 inches of clearance between you and the bike. For a mountain or hybrid bike, there should be 3 to 4 inches. For step-through bikes or bikes with a slanting top tube, test the frame by pushing one pedal all the way down while sitting on the seat. Your knee should have a slight bend in it. The seat post can be adjusted, but should be in the middle of the range, not fully extended or touching the frame. Regardless of your frame size, this test will also make sure your seat is at the right height for a comfortable ride. Tip: mark your seat height with a permanent marker, so if someone borrows your bike, you can easily move your seat post back to your ideal position. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Bike helmets are incredibly safe and useful tools, but only if worn properly. To find the right size helmet, put one on your head without fastening the straps. The front of the helmet should be level and 2 fingers width above your eyebrows. Shake your head from side to side. There should only be a little movement. Once you have the right size, you need to adjust the straps to ensure they are snug and comfortable. Finally, adjust the chin strap. The strap should be about 1/2 inch below your chin when your mouth is closed. Wearing a bike helmet with loose straps is the same as not wearing a bike helmet at all. The League of American Bicyclists.
So I'd like to make a couple of quick comments here about bike fit and comfort. What they really don't talk about there is, well, how high should your seat be? And if your seat's too low, which we see a lot of, you're going to be working harder pedaling, and you could hurt your knees. Now, I know a lot of people like to be lower center of gravity. They feel a little more confident there, but with some practice, we recommend riding so that your knee is just slightly bent. And similarly, if the seat's too high, you're going to be wobbling in the seat, and that's bad for your knees as well. So one quick way to check and get an approximate is you want that seat to be sort of above your leg, where your leg joins your hip, and just below the hip bone. And what I'm doing here is I'm raising my leg while having the bike next to me, and the crease in my leg, basically where it's bending, is sort of equivalent to the top of that saddle. And that's a good place to start with your adjusting. And then you may want to go up a little bit or down a little bit depending on how you feel. There are 2 other adjustments on saddles and that you can make, and it's moving it back and forth horizontally, and then it also has a tilt. Some people like a little bit of downward tilt. Some people like a little bit of an upward tilt. It just depends on the type of bike it is, whether it's really fully upright or a road bike. So you have to play with that. But there are three kinds of adjustments that you can make there. But you do want to be comfortable on a bike. It's supposed to be fun. And if you don't have a comfortable seat, and you can't figure it out, I recommend getting to a bike shop. The next thing is on the helmet fitting, they really don't talk about the side straps. It's really important that the side straps be snug, and they should come and fit below your ear in a V shape. Now, this particular helmet has very easy buckles here to work with those side straps. But you'll have to play with those for a few minutes on each side to get them just right. And you do that, you get those right first, and then you adjust the buckle down below as well. Now, I also have an adjuster on the back of the helmet to tighten up the interior piece of that. It's a little bit of a fancier helmet here, which is nice. But this is a comfortable. Helmets are comfortable, and you know, I'm a big klutz, so I'm a big believer in them. 50% of bicycle accidents are solo events. So, you know, you hit a rock, you get a dog that runs out in front of you, and that sort of thing. So I recommend helmets. So, and finally, on this particular commuting bike, there's a mirror, a bell, and a $15 set of front and back lights. So Illinois law requires a white front light and a red reflector or a red light in back for riding at night. Now, we recommend a red light because for the back because it's simply more visible. There are lights of all sizes and types and price ranges. I personally like USB rechargeables. The nice thing there is that I can, using the USB rechargeables, I can use them as daytime running lights, just like motorcycles and new model cars that have daytime running lights. It makes you more visible. The other thing we recommend is wearing bright clothing, or if you're dressed up for work or something like that, grab a vest. You can always wad it up and throw it in your pocket or backpack. The bell is optional, but it's required in some countries. If you find yourself riding a lot on trails with a lot of pedestrians, you may find this a useful addition. And finally, I'm also very fond of mirrors. And I've got this juxtaposition against a car because, just like driving in traffic, you like to have mirrors to see what's going on behind you. So I like to have that same ability on my bike. We use them on cars. Why not on a bike? So I have them on all my bikes or on a helmet. And the nice thing about the helmet is that it's portable, and some of them, some mirrors fit on your glasses as well. So do we have any questions, Rick, on basic equipment that people might be interested in knowing about?
Just some clarification on the existence of helmet laws in Illinois. I think there's some question about that.
Okay, that's real simple. There are no requirements for helmets in Illinois. I think a couple of states have requirements for kids. Cynthia, you may know more about. Are there some states require it on kids? I think, like Washington, or did they rescind that?
And you may have city ordinances that require helmets on kids. And Dave shared with me that Schaumburg does have an ordinance requiring people to use bike infrastructure. So depending on where you are, you may need to check your city ordinances to see what they are. And usually on the municipal website, they will have those posted.
Okay. Well, I'll have much more to say about bike lanes in a bit. So next, we're going to talk about some basic signaling and lane changing. So I'll go back to the video here.
When you hear people say something is as easy as riding a bike, they've probably forgotten about starting and stopping. Here are some tips to help you safely on your way. To start riding, straddle the bike without sitting on the seat. If you can't do this comfortably and are sitting on the frame, the bike is probably too big for you. Choose whichever pedal is most comfortable for you to start with and move it into an upright position. In one smooth motion, push the pedal down, ease yourself back onto your seat, and put your other foot on the other pedal. Don't be worried if it's a bit of a struggle to find the other pedal at first. Just remember, practice helps. Next up, stopping. You want to try and stop when one foot is at the bottom of the pedal stroke. Stop pedaling and shift your weight so it's more on that pedal than on the seat. Then squeeze both of the brake levers equally. Don't grab the brakes too hard. You want to come to a gradual stop. Once you have stopped, slide forward off the seat and put one foot on the ground. Make sure your brakes are stopping you, not your feet. If you are riding in traffic, it's a good idea to get in the habit of setting the pedal in the upright position right after you stop. That way, you're always ready to go again when the light changes or traffic starts moving again. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Most bikes have gears, and you want to use them to keep your pedaling smooth and consistent, whether you're going uphill or down. Here's what you need to know about gears. When it's getting harder to pedal, shift into an easier lower gear. When it's getting easier to pedal, you'll want to be in a harder higher gear. On flat ground, you'll want to be in the middle of your range of gears. For best results, the chain needs to be generally in a straight line. For example, if you are in your hardest front gear, you don't want to be in your easiest back gear. You can usually tell by the sound of your gears if this isn't quite right. Practice shifting on a flat and quiet street until you can comfortably change gears. Tip: be sure to shift into a comfortable starting gear before you stop. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. You always want the people around you to know when you are turning, changing lanes, or stopping. This makes you ride safer and is also required by laws across the United States. Before signaling or changing lanes, look back quickly and make eye contact with road users. You'll see what's going on behind you and give them a clue that you are about to shift position. You will want to signal about 100 feet before you actually turn and hold it for 2 to 3 seconds. Signaling in advance gives other drivers time to react and allows you to have both hands on the handlebars as you make your turn. To let others know that you are going to turn left, fully extend your left arm out to the side. The most common way to signal turning right is to fully extend your right arm out to the side. Keep in mind that not all states allow this right signal. Some prefer that you bend your left arm up at a right angle. It's good practice to let others know when you are slowing or stopping. Since bikes don't have brake lights, you can show this by extending your left arm out at a right angle with your open hand facing down. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone. Changing lanes in traffic can be challenging. Here's a safe and easy way to change lanes with confidence. Plan ahead. Anticipate where you are going to need to be on the road. Look behind you, possibly several times. Signal where you are going. Act carefully, smoothly, and deliberately. You may have to wait for other drivers or change lanes gradually. When you are riding by a bus, truck, or large vehicle, be sure to position yourself where you are visible and out of the driver's blind spot. Keep in mind that you will need extra distance between you and a larger vehicle in order to be seen. Changing lanes, like all of bicycling, becomes easier with practice. Change lanes in an empty parking lot, moving between painted lines until you are comfortable enough to do it in traffic. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
So I want to make a couple of comments here. If you're used to driving a car, think of the same actions when riding a bike. The scanning, the checking for blind spots, and making your intentions known with signaling. But you do need to ride defensively. You can't assume that you can make eye contact with drivers these days. They're distracted, windows are tinted, they're talking on a cell phone. So you really should assume that you haven't been seen. Sometimes you do make that eye contact, you get a wave or something like that. That's a little different. But for the most part, our recommendation is to ride defensively and do your best to signal your intentions. So we talked about that slide. I forgot to show that one earlier when I was talking, and then yeah, that's the next slide. Oh yeah, this is what I wanted to do. So do we have any questions, Rick, that are related to what we just covered?
There's a question about lane positioning, and it's a person who commutes with their child, and the child's riding their own bike, and they have to ride on a busy road and then turn left, and they're concerned about lane position with the child on their own bike. And just wondering.
Okay, that's a question that I'd like to take up at the end if we could. That one, it'd be appropriate to talk about two-stage left turns as we talk about it. And it also depends on bike lanes and that sort of thing. So let's come back to that one. Anything else? Because the next 4 videos that we're going to do cover bike lanes and positioning on the road. So that'll be a good question for the end of the presentation.
Okay, great. That's all we've got right now.
Okay, then we'll go back to the video with 4 more here.
Slower traffic should keep to the right. On that, we all agree. But how far to the right? The legal answer is as far to the right as is practicable. This does not mean that you have to ride in the gutter. You should always keep a safe distance away from the edge of the road, parked cars, and any debris that ends up on the side of the road. When the road is too narrow to share with another vehicle, you should be in the middle of the lane. This will prevent cars from riding next to you or trying to pass you when there really isn't room. If the lane is wide enough to share, place yourself where the car's right tire would be. That's usually about 4 feet from the edge of the road. If you are traveling straight through an intersection where other travelers can turn right, you should be in the middle of the lane. This will encourage drivers to wait behind you if they are making a turn. You want drivers to wait behind you unless there is room for them to turn from your right. When turning left in a lane where other drivers might be going straight, as far right as practicable means you're going to be in the left-hand side of the lane. Riding as far to the right as practicable does not mean always being on the far right of the road. It means using your experience and skills to be a predictable and safe road user. At first, it can be a little intimidating to feel like you are riding in the middle of the lane, but it's actually safer for you and the driver behind you. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
Bike lanes are pavement markings used to help bicyclists and motorists share the road. A bike lane is a dedicated travel lane within the street space for the exclusive use of bicyclists. Bike lanes make it easier for bicycles and motor vehicles to share the road by providing a separate space for each mode of travel. A motorist should not park or drive in a marked bike lane unless it is necessary to make a right turn at an intersection, enter or leave a driveway, or park in a lane adjacent to the bike lane. To make a right turn across a bike lane at an intersection, a motorist should merge across the bike lane as they approach the intersection, yielding first to through bicyclists. The bike lane line becomes dashed in advance of the intersection to indicate to both motorists and bicyclists that crossing the line is allowed and that merging may take place at this point. Bicyclists and motorists should use caution in this area. To make a right turn across a bike lane at a driveway, a motorist should make their turn from the through vehicle lane. Do not merge into the bike lane. Crossing a solid white line requires special care. Be sure to check for bicyclists in the bike lane prior to turning and to yield to through bicyclists. A motorist should never speed up and pass a bicyclist, then attempt to make a right turn in front of the bicyclist. This is called the infamous right hook. The safer option is to slow down and let the bicyclist pass before making the right turn. Some bike lanes are located adjacent to motor vehicle parking lanes. By Illinois law, no person shall open the door of a vehicle on the side of moving traffic unless and until it is reasonably safe to do so and can be done without interfering with the movement of other traffic. After parking and before opening vehicle doors, a motorist should first check their mirror and turn around to look in their blind spots for bicyclists. Only when it is safe to do so should a motorist open their door. If a bike lane is located within the door zone of a motor vehicle, a bicyclist should ride toward the left edge of the bike lane, away from the parked cars. In Champaign-Urbana, the tick marks that indicate the front and back of a motor vehicle parking space are extended out into the bike lane to encourage bicyclists to ride out of the door zone. Bicyclists are not obligated to ride in the bike lane. If the bike lane is full of debris, the bicyclist should scan for traffic behind them, signal their intention, and merge into the vehicle traffic. If the bicyclist chooses, they may then merge back into the bike lane. The shared lane marking, also called a sharrow, is a pavement marking in a motor vehicle lane that is too narrow to be shared side by side by bicyclists and passing motorists. The sharrow is used to alert motorists of the location bicyclists are likely to be riding in the travel lane, to assist bicyclists with positioning in narrow lanes to avoid being squeezed, and to encourage safe passing of bicyclists by motorists. As the cities implement their bicycle plans, you will begin to see even more pavement markings and signs to help motorists and bicyclists share the road. Bicyclists have the right to ride on the sidewalks in both Champaign and Urbana, except in the central business districts. Keep in mind, though, that motorists are typically not looking for or expecting bicyclists on the sidewalk. Pedestrians are also typically not expecting a speeding bicyclist to be on the sidewalk. When riding a bicycle on a sidewalk or shared use path, it is important to remember to travel slowly, yield to the right-of-way of pedestrians, and give an audible signal before overtaking and passing them. If a shared use path exists parallel to the road, a bicyclist is not required to use it. They may choose to ride in the road, or they may choose to ride on a shared use path until a point where they feel comfortable riding with motor vehicle traffic. For a bicyclist, transitioning from a shared use path to the street is similar to motorists leaving a side street or a driveway. Approach the transition area while scanning over the left shoulder, signal, find a gap, and when it is safe to do so, merge into motor vehicle traffic. It is against city ordinance to ride a bicycle on sidewalks in downtown Urbana, downtown Champaign, and Campus Town. The cities welcome patrons to their downtowns to visit the many restaurants, art galleries, and shops. However, the large number of pedestrians walking, diners eating outdoors, and shoppers stepping out of shops make the sidewalk an unsafe place to ride. For everyone's safety, please dismount and walk your bicycle on downtown sidewalk.
Multi-use paths have become very popular in recent years. Because of the congestion of walkers, joggers, rollerbladers, baby strollers, and dogs, paths require different considerations than road riding. Do not ride on a trail if your goal is speed, as it's not safe for you or anyone around. Here are a few tips to share the trail. Be courteous and respect other trail users. Know the rules on the trail and yield to all trail users. Give a clear signal when passing, either by bell or by saying, "On your left." This sometimes confuses people, so be sure to slow down whenever you are passing and only pass on the left. The most dangerous part of the trail is usually where another trail or road crosses, so be cautious and yield to crossing traffic. Be predictable by riding in a straight line and signaling when you're turning or changing positions. Don't take up more than half of the width of the trail. Make sure you're visible and keep it clean. The League of American Bicyclists, creating better bike education for everyone.
So a couple of comments here. The most important one here is, frankly, is don't ride in the gutter. It's where you'll hit stuff, you'll get a flat, and you're not going to be seen by drivers as well as if you're out a bit. And that's why we recommend generally riding in the right wheel track, which is about 4 feet out in the road. Drivers have sort of a bit of a tunnel vision, and when you're in that right wheel track, you're more likely to be seen. The other thing is to take the lane when the road is narrow, and typically that's 12 or 13 feet wide. If you're 3 or 4 feet out in the road, you're in that right wheel track. The road is a little narrow. Cars need to basically change lanes to pass you, and that's the best thing to do. We really like it when cars change lanes to pass us as bicyclists. There's an interesting legal requirement here for motorists. They're not allowed to pass you within 100 feet of an intersection or railroad tracks. So those are places where you want to control the lane because you may be taking a left or right turn. And at railroad tracks, you want to be able to position yourself so that you could ride across those tracks in a perpendicular fashion. So, and then finally, I want to point out that you should stay 5 feet out from any parked car or truck. New SUVs and truck doors can be pretty big. Just a small SUV has a 4-foot wide door, and when you take into account your handlebars, you need 5 feet, and that may put you very well may put you outside of the bike lane. And like was said here several times, you don't have to ride in the bike lane. It's the polite thing to do, but when there's debris, when they're parked cars, your safety comes first. And so just remember to signal as best you can when coming out of a bike lane. So this is a good place for questions. What do we got, Rick?
Thanks, Charlie. Yeah, going back to signaling, someone asks you to clarify the right turn signals.
Yes. Yeah, that's an easy one. In Illinois, you can do it either way. You can extend out your right arm, which is sort of a natural movement, or you can use the left hand up. So both of those are legal in Illinois. Some places don't have the right turn thing, but I've used this in other countries, and people know what I'm doing. So It's a natural thing. You're indicating the direction you're going. In fact, sometimes I even indicate if I'm going diagonally, I will make a motion that I'm going diagonally, like moving to a bike path or something like that. So, motorists appreciate hand signals if you can do them clearly. I don't know if somebody else wants to add something to that.
That's pretty straightforward. Let's save the time on the next question, which is a bit of a loaded one from Kathy. And she's asking if there's any other safety equipment you can recommend besides a helmet, for example, knee pads or elbow pads, because she doesn't want to break anything if she falls.
Yeah, if you take a fall, your head's the most important thing that you want to protect. The next thing falling, for men, it tends to be wrists that get broken. But, riding with wrist guards is not, like you say, you're rollerblading isn't going to let you work the handlebars or the brake levers very well. I think it's, men tend to break their collarbones, and I think women tend to break their elbows more often in those kinds of things. So I really don't recommend any of those.
I think probably, obviously we want people to avoid accidents, avoid crashing. Mirrors, I think I agree with Charlie that mirrors are real helpful, so you kind of are aware of traffic. Things going into the front wheel, staying away from debris in the road like sticks that can flip up into the front wheel and cause you to do a header. Over braking on the front brake could cause you to do a header. My falls personally have been on the shoulder and sticking my arm out and hurting my rotator cuff. But other than that, I haven't injured myself in 54 years of riding. If you don't count a couple lost teeth when I was a kid.
I think Cynthia wants to add something here.
Yeah, I would say if falling is a real serious concern for you, I would recommend you take a look at a trike. There are a variety of recumbent trikes. There are some upright trikes, and those are very stable. So you're much less likely to have a crash. I think the main thing is to know how to handle your bike and to feel that you have control of your bike, and to be very watchful of what's going on around you. Those are the main ways to avoid having crashes. I have had crashes. I have broken a wrist when someone ran into me. Sometimes you don't have time to react, but that was a long time ago. And as I've gotten older, I've gotten more cautious.
The same person also asks, and I'll answer this one, about riding on the sidewalk counterflow or against the flow of traffic. And the question is, must you follow traffic pattern? And the answer is not legally, but it's a real bad idea to ride on sidewalks counterflow. And in Champaign, I've witnessed a couple accidents that way because drivers pull up to a stop sign, for example, and tend to look left for oncoming traffic if they're going to make a right turn into traffic, for example. And they see a bicycle coming from the right on the sidewalk last, if at all. So, and unfortunately, not a lot of data is collected on these kinds of accidents for bicycles, but where it has been collected, bicycles riding counterflow on the sidewalk are overrepresented in traffic accidents with other vehicles. In other words, it's a dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, let me add one thing on, riding on sidewalks, sometimes you have to do it. You're trying to get to some location that's really busy on the road, and I've done it. But you want to be really careful because sidewalks have a lot of breaks in them for the driveways. And so exactly. So if you have to ride on a sidewalk, ride with the direction of traffic for exactly the reason that Rick has made here.
If possible.
Yeah, if possible, yeah.
Yeah, and I want to
always stop. If you've got a short distance to go, there's always stopping and walking your bike. I did that today, actually.
And I wanted to circle back around to the question about riding with a child, and I believe they said it was on a busy road. Is that correct?
Yeah, Cynthia. Yeah, that's a. Can we wait until we do the two-way two-stage turn? Because I think that builds right into that.
Yeah, bike box.
Sure, we can do that. I don't think my answer will change very much, but that's another option they can consider.
Okay. Yeah, that's it, Charlie.
Okay. Then what I'd like to do now is thank Ride Illinois, the state bike advocacy group. Due to them, we have Zoom webinar abilities tonight. They've helped communities all over the state with maps, legislation, and education. Please check them out at rideillinois.org. Our panelist, Cynthia Hoyle, is a board member, and Dave is on as well. I don't know if, Dave, you want to introduce yourself real quickly?
Sure, Charlie, I'll say a few words. Thanks very much. Good to see everybody tonight. Yeah, we appreciate being involved in this webinar, and really, Champaign County Bikes, you guys do some wonderful work. You push the limits in a good way when it comes to communities that are becoming more bike friendly. So, we're good partners, and look forward to to working together with you guys for many years. And to all the attendees that are here tonight, please do heed the warnings and the advice that the panelists are sharing tonight. And yeah, feel free to check out rideillinois.org. And just a quick note, you can reach me at dave@rideillinois.org with any questions. So thank you for the opportunity, Charlie.
Okay, thanks, Dave. And there's some more stuff for Dave later tonight here as well, possibly. Well, so the next videos that we're going to look at, I've got 3 real quick ones. They're real short. They're from the point of view of a motorist. And watch closely the third one. Check out the mirrors in the third video. See if you can catch the Easter egg. And these are from an ad campaign that Ride Illinois did last year to promote the Ride Safety Quiz, which we'll talk about after these videos.
Contrary to what you might believe, cyclists move faster than you think. When you're driving, make sure to avoid the right hook. To be safe on the road, click below to take our motorist quiz.
So the first 2 are pretty straightforward, but the third one, I was just shocked that many people could be hidden in the blind spot of a truck. Large trucks and buses can be very dangerous for bicyclists. They have these huge blind spots, and they're much bigger than what we're used to in our cars. Mirrors and such don't cover everything, though more modern trucks and buses may have additional sensors that help, but you can't count on it. So our recommendation is never to get on the inside of a bike, or never to ride on the inside of to the right of a bus or a truck. Stay behind them, and I've got a MTD video here that goes over bus stuff here, and I'll play it real quickly, but I may skip through parts of it.
Buses are also typically driving in the right lane and are pulling over to the right curb to pick up and drop off passengers. It is important for bicyclists to be aware of the location of buses ahead of and behind them so they can be prepared to act accordingly. It is easy to recognize bus stops adjacent to the bike lanes because, similar to intersections, the bike lane lines become dashed along the bus stop, indicating that merging may take place at this point, and to be aware and use caution in this area. However, bus stop locations may not always be so easy to recognize. Champaign-Urbana MTD buses will pick up and drop off passengers at many locations, including mid-block stops and stops that are not always identified with a bus stop sign. If a bus is pulled over to the bike lane or pulled over to the curb, a bicyclist should behave the same as when overtaking a slower moving road user. Scan for traffic, signal, and merge into motor vehicle traffic. Bicyclists should pass at least 3 feet from the bus to ensure that they can be seen in the bus driver's mirror. Never pass a bus on the right side. Bicyclists should pay attention to the bus's rear signal lights. If the bus is picking up and dropping off passengers, both backlights will be flashing. If the bus is getting ready to re-enter the vehicle lane, the left turn signal will be on. If the left turn signal is on, the bicyclist should assume that the bus does not see them and will re-enter the vehicle lane. The bicyclist should slow down and let the bus pull out in front of them. Buses do have blind spots, and operators are trained about them, but it is always best to ride defensively.
So with that and the Ride Illinois videos, I want to introduce the bike safety quiz. There are 4 modules, 2 for cyclists and 2 for motorists. For cyclists, this is another way to learn about different bike situations when you're riding on the road. This is an Illinois product developed by Ride Illinois that's being used in driver's ed classes around the state, and in fact is now in use with modifications in some other states. You can have your child learn them in that module, and even better, there are modules here for drivers and truckers. So please encourage your driving friends to take the quiz. The state motoring laws are very long and complex. The driver's ed and state Secretary of State manuals don't cover it all. So the bike safety quiz is a great place to go learn a lot of the rules and the situations quickly. So here's a typical child question. It's a or B type answer, very straightforward, and it's appropriate for first, second graders through 7th graders. I think 6th, 7th graders, depending on their abilities, may very easily be able to move to the adult version. An adult question is a little more complex. Here's a situation. You've got a right turn lane coming up and you're going straight through. What should you do? And here's an example of something which you can look at from both a motorist point of view or the bicyclist. What should as a bicyclist, what should you do? As a motorist, you're coming up behind a bicyclist and you've got a right turn lane. Where should you be? Do you pass the bicyclist and hop into the right lane? No. You slow down and trail the bicyclist. Let them move through first. So I want to end with the MTD Bike Box video, which is a new production of theirs. Urbana is considered a gold-level bike-friendly city. Champaign and the University of Illinois are silver. Part of this designation comes from the various bits of bike infrastructure that have been added over the past 15 years or so. The MCORE project, which is just wrapping up here, particularly Green Street and Rice Street, have some of the newest bike-specific features, and they include these 2-stage bike boxes for making a left-hand turn when you aren't comfortable or able to move into the left turn lane. So we'll close tonight with this MTD production, and then we'll go right to that question about riding with children and talk a bit more about this 2-stage turn.
And if anybody has a final question, I want to thank everybody who's submitted questions. If anyone else wants to submit one, please don't hesitate in the Q&A tool.
Being a cyclist can sometimes be hard. You've got to keep a constant lookout for cars. Luckily, there's something that provides protection when you're trying to turn across a dangerous intersection. It's a bike box zone. We're promoting safety. We're teaching everyone so you won't do it crazy. Whether you're 14 or over 80, so everyone can ride their bicycle safely. When the light turns green, proceed to the box. Turn your bike to the left and come to a stop. On the next green light, you're good to go. This a bike box lesson. Now you know. Now cars, listen up, this one's for you. You've got some responsibility too. Yield to bikes, make sure you're always watching, keep both eyes peeled, show some extra caution. Pedaling down the street in my two-wheeler, looking both ways, cause the street unfamiliar. Went to the bike box, waited for the light. When it turns green, you know I take flight. Car pulls up in the same lane. He's looking confused. He starts to say, "What's that green box?" So I say, "It's the bike box, man, and safety's the way."
So that's it for our video tonight. We really want to encourage you to get out and ride. Practice, review the rules of the road, pump up your tires, get some lube on your chain, do the ABC quick check, and think about where you're going to go, but just ride. Now, one of the things I want to point out is that, the typical roads that you drive with a car are probably not usually what you want to go ride a bike on. But we have a great system of one-off residential roads in Champaign-Urbana and Savoy, and so you can move 1 block or 2 blocks from your regular route and get to where you're going, and have fun while you're at it. There are lots of apps, there are websites, and there's even a paper map. If I can get to it here. Our paper map is there aren't printed copies available anymore. We're talking about the next edition and whether to make it an all digital one, but you can download a PDF to your computer or phone from ChampaignCountyBikes.org's website, and you can put a PDF or a JPEG on your cell phone as well. One thing I want to point out on these is that there are plenty of places to ride to. The blue dots and the blue lines are either quiet off-street residential roads or bike infrastructure that we recommend using to get from point A to point B. We do ask that if you check out the red dots here, those are a bit of those are pinch points. Those are intersections where it's a little bit problematic to get across. There may not be a light there, there may not be a stoplight, and so you have to use a little bit of care. And then, of course, there's the Kickapoo Rail Trail. You can park in the Urbana Walmart parking lot and ride to St. Joe and back. And you can go to some of the bigger parks and do the same thing and ride some of the loops there. So a couple of our local groups, the Prairie Cycle Club was founded in 1971. It's a local not-for-profit. It's a social group for bicyclists, and they serve a variety of bicyclists from beginners and recreational bicyclists through the touring and road racers. So there's something for everyone there, and they welcome families, students, singles, couples, and so on. They encourage you to come and join and ride with them. The Bike Project is another nonprofit here in town where you can go and learn how to fix your own bike. They've got hours posted on their website. They have classes. They have a Fix-A-Flat class coming up. They had one tonight, actually. Their next one is towards the end of April. And they have some rides that they do, and they also have a bike maintenance class that they offer every once in a while. So if you want to learn how to do it yourself, the Bike Project is a place to go. And then finally, I want to mention the Kickapoo Mountain Bike Club. We have a premier level set of mountain bike trails now at Kickapoo State Park. You can go to their website and see the different maps. They have some beginning level routes through much more difficult ones, and they're adding new routes as we speak. I think they've got 2 or 3 in the works this year. Finally, if you're interested in all things bicycle, we have a a newsletter that comes out in bicycling season once or twice a month, depending on what's going on, courtesy of Steve Hankel. And we have a sign up that you can get to from our website. So with that, I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight. Please check out the various groups and resources. Everything should be, you can find all the links on ChampaignCountyBikes.org under our resources page. So with that, I'll stop sharing and we can bring on the whole panel, and we'll start with that question that Cynthia wanted to answer about what to do when riding with a child.
So yes, I was going to answer. I think that that the context was a busy road and a child. I don't know the age of the child, but if I were riding with a younger child on a busy road, when I got to an intersection, if it was a multi-lane road, I would do what they call, it is a two-stage turn, but it's also called a pedestrian turn. And that would be to move into the area where a pedestrian would wait and cross in the crosswalk as a pedestrian. You'll have to do two legs of the intersection that way, but it's safer. If the child is, middle school or teenage age, I think you can probably signal and move over into the turn lane that you desire to be in. If it's a left turn, depending on how fast the traffic is and how much traffic there is. Because if there aren't gaps in traffic, then it's going to be very difficult for you to make those maneuvers quickly and safely with two of you together. So those would be my suggestions, and it does depend on the circumstances, the number of lanes on the road, the amount of traffic, the speed of the traffic, and the age of the child.
Dave Simmons is going to, thank you, Cynthia. Dave Simmons is about to jump off, but I wanted to ask him if he could mention the GIBT ride. Our friend Susan mentions that you may have some spaces still.
Oh yeah, thanks, Rick. So yeah, the Grand Illinois Bike Tour, and thank you, Susan, takes place June 13th to 18th, and it is a hotel-only ride this year. We due to COVID and some regulations, we had to do away with the camping, but you can find more information on the Ride Illinois website. And so we'd love to have some folks from Champaign join. And I apologize, I do need to jump off, but
sure.
Great job, guys. Thank you for the opportunity to join. We'll talk soon.
Yeah, and if anybody has questions for Dave, dave@rideillinois.org, and you can find that contact on their website as well. But again, we really encourage folks to take the bike safety quiz, and frankly, do all 4 parts.
Great suggestion.
Thank you. We have,
thanks, Dave. Thanks.
We have an experienced touring rider in Rich Furr here with us on the panel, and Dave needed to go off probably to another Zoom webinar or something. He's working hard, but I wondered if Rich could, if Rich has been on that ride and could speak to the level of expertise required for somebody who maybe hasn't participated in a touring style ride. What level of skill or fitness would one need to participate? Could you answer that, Rich?
Certainly, yeah. I would say kind of a medium skill level, intermediate. The ride links, and I haven't been on it for a very, very long time, but the ride links are generally probably 40 to 50 miles per day. So you're going to need a lot of preparation. I would always recommend that you work up to that slowly over time, because it does take time. One thing that I found myself is that ride at least the length of the longest day trip before you actually go on this. That way you'll know that you can accomplish that. So if the longest day is 45 miles, make sure that you can ride 45 miles. And this is a tour, as Rick said. And so it's not a race, which is very important. All you're doing is going from point to point and enjoying the scenery along the way.
And riding,
I did
I'm sorry.
I did the ride 2 years ago, and there are two options each day in terms of distance. There's a longer ride and a shorter ride. The shorter routes tend to be 30 to 40 something miles a day, and the longer ride tends to be 40 to 60 or something. You don't have to be a expert rider to do this, and actually I was among some of the younger people on the ride, so that also gives you some helpful information. And so if you can ride 30 miles a day, you would be fine. There were people on trikes, there were people on recumbents, there was a woman who carried her dog the whole time. So it was a wide variety of cyclists and age and fitness levels. So I would say not to be scared of doing that ride, and it's well supported. They take care of people, so you wouldn't have any problems if you needed help in some way. It's a really well organized ride, and I don't think I can go this year, which is super disappointing. But it's definitely a lot of fun, and you can do it if you ride on a regular basis.
Yeah, this is actually a good place to plug Prairie Cycle Club if you want to, learn how to ride and build up mileage, because they have different levels of rides and they have different levels of mileage. They'll start out with small levels of mileage early in the season and build up. So it's building up is a matter of adding 5 to 10 miles a week to your riding. It's just like if you want to get out and run a race, you have to build up the mileage. It's the same sort of thing. But again, the comfort of your bike is so important. Make sure the bike fits you and that you're comfortable on it, because if you're going to spend a long time in the saddle, literally, you want it to fit you well. And different people need different widths of bike saddles. So that's another consideration I didn't even talk about earlier. But long distance bicycling is a lot of fun. It's my biggest hobby. So
circling back to the topic here, I'll just add, having been introduced by you as a commuter, I have also done a bit of touring, and I have found that short distance commuting regularly goes a long way in preparing you for touring riding. And then last thing I want to say is just thanks again to everybody who sent in questions. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Do we have anything else, Rick?
No, nothing else at this time, Charlie.
Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight again, and thank the panelists and those attending. I hope it's useful. We will be we've recorded this. We'll do a little editing probably and put it up on our website and pass it around to those that may not have been able to make it tonight. So thank you everyone for coming. And with that, I'll close out this meeting.